Okay, everybody, this is Darren Tipton with Adrenaline Volleyball, and we're back with our coffee with the coaches. And we have the opportunity to talk to the head coach, Emily Burns, of number one ranked Class AA and undefeated Sioux Falls O'Gorman Knights. And Emily, thanks for taking time to talk with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're filming this or recording this on Wednesday morning. Another big win for you guys over Sioux Falls Lincoln last night. But just talk to everybody about the season in general so far. What's it been like with this group, and how's it been the first 10 matches or so?
Yeah, I mean, it's been obviously a great start to our season record-wise, but it's also been a really good start just with the personnel that we have. We have really great kids back. Our coaching staff is awesome. It's been a really fun year to just have the people we have together and make a run for it. So that's been really fun so far.
What have you seen as we talk with everybody, and a lot of your girls play a lot of volleyball year round, and I'm familiar with a lot of the names, but was it different coming in August due to a different off season, or did they just kind of hit the ground running? What was it like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's been talking about how it's kind of been a weird summer coming into fall, and I mean, we didn't feel a lot of that, which is pretty unique. I mean, our kids did a lot this summer still. A lot of our kids were still training with their clubs,
Right.
and you could tell coming in the fall they were just ready to go, and I don't think we really missed a beat coming back.
Okay, let's talk about getting into your senior class, and we've touched on some of them, but so many of them playing big roles, and we'll talk more about Reagan here in a little bit, but otherwise, talk about just the senior class, the roles they played, who stepped up, what they're showing leadership wise, and how this group is playing together.
Yeah, I mean, we have 7 seniors, so that's pretty unique in a lot of situations, and it's unique that all 7 of them are seeing the court, and that's pretty rare for a senior class as big as they are. But they've worked hard and they've earned spots, and they're willing to push their teammates, and they're willing to be pushed by teammates too. So it's been a really cool experience, and they all lead in a really different way. So it's kind of fun to see them grow into that a little bit. Obviously, our seniors are all kind of in different situations as far as their background with the program and their background on varsity and things like that. We have some faces that obviously have been playing for a while, and then we have some faces who kind of just cracked the lineup this year. And so it's a cool dynamic for us to have both ends of that in our seniors, because they just bring different perspectives to the court and to their teammates, and they all kind of lead in a unique way, but everyone on the team looks up to every single one of them. So it's cool to have. They set a standard for us for sure.
Talk about, because I love doing this, and we talk about championship programs, and to be where you guys are right now, and even state runner up last year. You guys have been in big matches. You've been one of the top teams, AA for a while. That doesn't come without kids accepting their role and excelling at new roles. Talk about some of those, whether they're seniors or even underclassmen who have stepped up to a bigger role this year, and are excelling at that, I guess, in their new roles.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it for us this year has been our attacking. Our whole attacking lineup has been kind of shaken up a little bit this year.
Right.
Obviously, we have Josie and Grace back this year. So Josie's a senior in the middle, and then Grace is on the outside again.
Yeah.
And Grace is playing, obviously, a lot bigger role for us this year, with Emma being gone this year and with some shifts going on. So she stepped up and taken on a lot of that, and Josie is our only returning middle.
Right.
And so she's had a lot of leadership responsibility in that, and kind of taking the reins on bringing our underclassmen up a little bit. And then Bella obviously transferred in this year from Brandon.
Right.
So she's not a young face. She's coming in as a junior, and she has some varsity playing experience, but it's obviously different when you're stepping into a new team with some new people, and it helps that she comes into a program where she knows a lot of people already and is familiar with a lot of the girls. And she fit in super seamlessly for us. So that's been obviously a huge addition to our offense. But even just connection-wise with our setters, it's a lot of new faces surrounding them and different tempos for different people, and kind of learning the way that different people play.
Right.
And so that's been a big adjustment. And then obviously in our other outside position, we have Elena Lubeck stepping in. Macy Matheson's getting some time in the court.
Yep.
We're deep at our attacking. which is exciting, and it gives us a good chance to kind of use different looks against different people, or if anyone's having an off night or we feel like we're not connecting on certain things, we have the ability to change that.
Yeah.
And that's a huge advantage for us, and it's also a huge advantage that our girls handle it really, really well. And they're willing to do what's best for the team, and it's been fun to watch them kind of grow into that a little bit.
And I love what you talked about, Coach, and as Haley tries to continue to teach me the game, it's one thing she pointed out and wanted me to ask. Like, we talk about, we break down your team just having so many different weapons, because there's girls on this team, if they're in a different program or different class, I mean, they're 3-year starters. They're, their stats are a lot bigger. You've touched on it a couple times. What's it like for them, A, to have so many weapons, and B, have they all been, it seems like they have all been really accepting and excelled at the roles they have on this team.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of that also has to do with our study, in that we can run a really balanced offense from anywhere on the court. And obviously, Bergen and Reagan do a great job of that. Reagan's running a 5-1 for us this year, so that's also a different change and a different look for us from last season. Have her as an offensive option. On a second contact in the front row has been huge for us. It also gets us some more opportunities with our middles running some different routes. So that's been cool to see. And obviously, they have the ability to adjust and find different hitters in different areas of the court and kind of set people to their best ability, which has been really interesting to see us kind of like grow into that a little bit, because all of our pins hit a different ball. All of our middles hit a little bit different ball. Like, we have different height advantages, we have different verticals, we have different speeds. So it's obviously a hard thing to make connect on all of those fronts. But we have done a really good job of kind of rolling with that and kind of figuring that out as we go and adjusting to people's needs and really helping each other be the best version of themselves.
What we talk about, state runner-up, and I always talk with seniors or returning players. Does it matter? Is that definitely a goal? Has that been a motivation, in state runner-up last year, or is it a new team? Just, how has that been something that's been on the bulletin board for this crew? Especially the seniors, or do they not really worry about it? They just take it match by match. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that we worry about it. Obviously, it's in the back of all of our minds. Like, you walk away from a season like that, and you're obviously hungry to prove that you deserve better,
right?
That you can do better. So it's obviously in the back of everyone's minds. But every day we come into the gym, it's just our mindset is just getting better that day, and taking the day that's in front of us and the match that's in front of us, and going from there. So obviously, it's a goal for us, and it's never not on our minds. That we want a state championship this year, but it's never what we focus on. Like, it's early in the season, and we have a lot of things to do to even get us to that point.
Right. Well, talk about the experience at the Pentagon tournament on Saturday, and we just watched. I mean, for a impartial volleyball fan, that was a pretty cool day. Talk about how you guys played on Saturday, what it was like, matching up against Northwestern and even Dakota Valley, for non-traditional opponents. Was that fun for you guys? Were you tired by the end of the day? What was that day like? Because it sure was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was very fun, and yes, we were very tired.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's a lot of volleyball, and a lot of our kids are used to similar schedules because of club volleyball.
Right.
But it's still such a different game when it's high school season, and when you're playing. If you play 3 sets, you play to 25, and it's a lot of volleyball. And so obviously, by the end of the day, everyone was kind of huffing and puffing. We were pretty tired, but it is fun to see some teams that we don't get to see otherwise, and some good teams that are like giving everyone else in their class a run for their money. And so it's fun to kind of see how we stack up and be able to see some new faces and some teams that we don't have a lot of knowledge about.
Right.
And so it gives us a good opportunity to kind of see what we can come up with on the fly, and how good our vision is on the court and what we're picking up on, and kind of finding weaknesses of teams mid-match, which is awesome for us to see. And our kids do a great job of that. We have great vision on the court as a whole. And I think that really paid off for us this weekend and being able to overcome some of those teams.
Yeah, and maybe talk to me about that, because I was always, my coach days was a film breaker down, a game plan, and I know you guys do a great job of that in a regular, hey, we have one match, I know you guys come up with a game plan for that, or even a state tournament situation. And I know Nora, at Northwestern, a ton of prep. I'm sure Mary at Dakota Valley is the same way. But what's it like when it's just boom, 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 boom? Do you just go out and play, or do you come into it with some sort of game plan, or do you just literally adjust on the fly?
I mean, both. We always have a game plan for ourselves. And I think that's kind of how we approach a lot of our regular in-season matches as well, is that we game plan for ourselves. And there's always like one or two other things that maybe like they have a super frequent tendency that their team has that we'll plan for or that we'll like make note of. But for the most part, our game plan is always about ourselves and not so much about who we're playing or what they might do. Because we just really believe as our coaching staff that our team functions the best when we focus on our side. And we worry about what we can control. And teams are always going to score their points, and they're gonna find ways to make things happen. Like no matter what level team you're playing, they're going to get the job done in some way or another. And we have to be ready to just kind of roll with those punches and adjust as we go to those little things, but still focus on our game. And I think that is what really paid off for us this weekend, especially like dropping our first set of the year, which obviously had to happen at some point. And obviously we're not upset about it. We're not mad about it. And we rebounded from it really well and came back and won the next two sets 25-14.
Right.
So it's cool to see us like rebound from some of that and kind of our mental game step in a little bit. And kind of realize where we were lacking a little bit, and be able to make that correction in the very next set is really cool for us.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that one, and I'm sure we had talked about the Western Christian match. You said, hey, we just gave up a little bit of a run, and one thing I've noticed, and when people have asked us, the thing I've said is O'Gorman just hasn't given up runs. They don't get down on themselves. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like it's totally the next play. I haven't seen a lot of, like I said, getting down on themselves. They're literally like a point at a time. What do you credit that to this year? And is that accurate? Is that something that's coachable? Or because as we watch so much volleyball, we don't always see that, right? And when I watch this team, they don't give up 6-7 point runs. Now, part of that's talent, but also part of that is it seems like they shake everything off. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, that's very intentional on our part and on the part of the girls. One of their team goals this year is that they don't want to give up any 3-point runs. And so runs are a huge factor in any volleyball match. And they can kind of come back to bite you in the butt at the worst time. And that's a goal that we have going into every match. And we keep track of it for the girls and kind of keep us honest at where we're at as far as giving up runs.
Right.
And so it's always on our mind, and we're very intentional about that. So I think that pays off for us.
What do you think? And every team is a little bit different. And I love asking this just from the mentality part of the game. But every team, has their leader or leaders when somebody does shank a ball or there's miscommunication or you give up a 2-point run, right? Is there somebody who steps up and says, let's go? Is there somebody that steps up and says, hey, it's okay, you'll get them? How does this team react? And are there particular players that just say, all right, let's go?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a lot of leaders who step up in that way. I think specifically like when runs happen in our backcourt, Bryn is our person who steps in and kind of handles that. She runs our backcourt super well. Obviously, as our libero, she's passing in every rotation for us. And she does a great job of controlling the communication back there, helping people succeed, and kind of covering for people when they're not feeling their best or if they're struggling with a certain ball, she'll take up more area for them. And that's huge for us in the backcourt, and I think that's what gets us out of a lot of runs. And then vocally for us, Reagan is definitely that leader. Anytime we have team huddles in between points or timeouts in between sets, and she's the one coming out with some encouraging words for her teammates and just kind of keeps us all level-headed. And I think the team really looks to her for that.
And I think you nailed on 2 words. That's how I would exactly describe her: level-headed but encouraging, and just kind of calm people down. If anybody, I honestly, and I have been looking for it, I haven't seen anybody just get really excited or down on themselves extremely. But if that happens, is that what she does? Is that how she leads? Is that kind of the temperament of this team?
Yeah, I mean, gets a lot more fired up than I think people see in her.
But yeah.
Obviously, she's very competitive, and she likes to hold her teammates to that standard too. So if someone isn't doing their job, she'll let them know and kind of hold them accountable to that. But I think she has earned the right to do that because she is so level-headed and she is so positive with them, and she will give people second and third chances because she genuinely trusts them. And I think that's a really, really huge asset for us and helps everyone function their best all the time.
Yeah, well, it definitely makes for you guys to be a fun team to watch, and I've told coaches out like, hey, I really enjoy watching this team and how they interact together, and again, I'm looking at your guys' roster pulled up right now, and I'm looking and I'm just like, oh, we could talk about her, we could talk about her, we could talk about her. There's some good kids and some very talented athletes. Let's wrap it up with this, Emily. Heading into the first week in November, right? We have a month left of regular season. Other than the obvious staying healthy, what's your guys' goal? What's the team goals? What do you need to continue to improve on to be where you want to be come postseason?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us right now is kind of finding how we can hold ourselves to the standard that we expect ourselves to be at all the time. Obviously, this weekend was a lot of volleyball, and then last night we played a good match but didn't play our game, and got the job done but didn't really play up to the level that we expect of ourselves all the time, and everyone could feel it on the court, we could feel it afterwards, and we kind of just got to find that groove for us that we can play our best volleyball, and it's a good way for us to respect everyone that we play too, and we've got to be able to show up with our best game because we know that everyone's showing up with their best game for us. And so I think that is the biggest thing for us going forward is just finding that standard for ourselves and being able to keep that all the time, no matter what.
Man, well, it's been awesome, and we'll continue to watch you guys. One, because of the talent on the team, but two, how well this team plays together. So, best of luck for you moving forward to be undefeated, to be number one in the state. A lot of pressure. I'm sure you've done a lot of interviews like this that you probably get tired of, but we appreciate it, and we definitely appreciate your kids. So, thank you so much for the time. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Patreon listeners, we are back here this morning, coffee with Coach Jill Cradaville of Madison. Off to a solid start here in the 2020 season, in 8-2, in a very competitive DAC-12 conference. Coach, can you give us a little insight and overview of maybe how the season is starting?
Yeah, we aren't in any tournaments this year besides the DAC-12, and so we haven't played as many matches as we normally have by this time of the season, but the girls have done a nice job coming in after not getting any time this summer to work together and have been working hard in practice and doing a really nice job. Our 2 losses, we were right there with Sioux Falls Christian, took them to 4, and one of the sets went extra points, and even against Northwestern, we were ahead by 10, I think, at one point, and they just clawed their way back, but we've had some really good matches, and I've been seeing a lot of really good things from the girls lately that, even if we lose a set or we're down, we don't just give up. We keep fighting back, and we keep playing hard, and that's what we did against Parker the other night, which I was, after a week or so off, it was nice to see once we got oiled up and ready to go after set 1, then we were good to roll. So I've just been really impressed with the girls and how they've been working and coming together as a team this year.
Yeah, of course. And, you talked about level of competition. Being in the DAC-12 is like almost a built-in competitive schedule with one of the highest level mix of teams across the state. How crucial is it to see so many solid teams before postseason play? I know, like you said, not in as many tournaments this season, so matches are low. But yeah, what is something, especially with the addition of a match like Northwestern, what does that mean to your team?
Yeah, it gives the girls that opportunity to just play some good, tough opponents. And like I tell the girls, 4-set, 5-set matches, they're only going to help us. We started the season with Hamlin and weren't quite ready or weren't quite on top of our game at that point. And we ended up winning in 5, but again, we lost the first set, maybe even the first 2. I can't even remember at this point, but the girls fighting back and being able to still win, even being down. And I think that's going to help us in the long run, and competing against these really good teams, a Sioux Falls Christian, Northwestern, or Parker, being able to come back and still have the competitive edge and come back swinging, and not being afraid to make those mistakes and playing to win versus, falling back and being less aggressive. And I think we've been doing a nice job of that. And come postseason, that's when you're going to have your more competitive games. And if we've been playing a schedule like that all year, I think that's really beneficial to us, because we've been in those situations where maybe some teams wouldn't have been in some of those tight, close matches or situations in their regular season.
Yeah, a lot to learn with a competitive schedule there. Okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of going to switch gears here and talk about a few of your athletes. You've got a solid core group of 4 seniors with a ton of experience between them. Maybe a different story for each of them, but will you talk to us a little bit about, Abby Brooks, Sophia Vandenbosch, Autumn Barger, and Skylar Sargent, your 4 seniors?
Yeah, Skylar and Autumn were my right side hitters last year. They needed to come in, get some good blocks, so they didn't get a ton of swings like they are now. And Autumn stepped in on that outside hitter position, and she's just done a really nice job being confident and aggressive on the outside. She may not get as many kills as some of the other girls, but defensively she's just quick and can get to a lot of balls, so that really helps us. Skylar didn't start our season, had a little bit of an injury, so she was working her way back in, and she just does a nice job on that right side. She can hit that line shot, and is just really aggressive with placing the ball, and she's even stepped in now with her aggressive serving, and it's got a lot more consistent compared to last year. But again, just a lot of good senior leadership out there. Sophia Vandenbosch and Abby Brooks, I mean, the stats tell you everything. There are 1 and 2 hitters. They have a lot of our kills. Sophia is just getting smarter and stronger. She can hit the ball line. She can go crush. She can hit some different shots that make the defense on the other side really have to not cheat, I guess. Like, there's some hitters you can just really cheat as to where they hit, and it's very consistent. Whereas Sophia can change it up, and she's a lot harder to defend. And then she is playing all the way around for us, and defensively she does a pretty good job getting lots of touches on volleyballs. And Abby Brooks, man, she's just kind of come out of nowhere, and I shouldn't say nowhere. She came on strong last year at the end of the season, and this season she's only gotten stronger and faster and more confident, and that shows. I mean, against a Parker, she had 33 kills, and Parker's a good team. And when you're playing teams that are decent and they're still not able to stop her, that's pretty impressive in my book. But we've got to get some other ones. We can't just rely on her all the time either, and it's been nice to see some girls when we need a big kill stepping up and getting the job done.
Yeah, definitely. Players that all kind of lead in their own way. For sure. And we like to actually ask about names to know. We do a segment on that, and athletes we haven't maybe spotlighted yet or aren't in those huge roles. Are there any Bulldogs we need to keep our eye on and add to that list?
Yeah, Kylie Kruzmark she ran a 6.2 last year, and she was the one setting Grace Nelson all year last year. And our 2 middles, I mean, it was no surprise last year that we were going to set our middles every chance that we got. And Kylie just does a really nice job setting Abby in the middle, and obviously setting Grace last year with our 2 leading kills leaders coming from the middle hitter position. And she's just done a nice job stepping into the 5-1 role, going all the way around and leading our team and getting the ball to who needs to get there, who's getting the job done that night. Raina Rost is our libero this year, junior, and she plays in our left back position, and she's just a quick, smart little player. You tell her something and she's going to do that. And it's like, hey coach, where should I be this game? Where's this person hit? And she just really wants to understand and study the game. And she's so coachable that, you tell her something and she's going to do that. And And so that's just been really nice to see her stepping into that position, because she didn't have really much varsity experience, considering we had quite a few seniors last year. And then we have our freshman, Audrey Nelson, who started for us on the right side when Skylar was out at the beginning, and has moved into our middle hitter position. And she's just going to get stronger and faster. You know, she's picking up with the speed of the game. And once we get that quicker arm swing on her, man, you're going to want to watch out. So it's just been really nice to see all these girls step into each role, and accepting each role that they have.
Yeah, well, we look forward to keeping an eye on those athletes, not only for the rest of this season, but again, those seasons to come. Such a bright future. But moving forward, you got a huge next couple weeks. Hopefully, we stick to a somewhat of a schedule, but Dakota Valley, hopefully somewhere in the near future coming up. DAC-12 conference tournament is still on the schedule for now. You're playing AA Brookings. What are you guys focusing on through these next couple of weeks and matches?
I just keep telling the girls, we've got to, our serve, receive, and our defense is what's going to win the matches. And if we can be in system, we're pretty hard to stop. And defensively, we've got a decent block up front. So just getting our defense in the right positions to make some big plays and turn around and get some kills from our front row. But like I always tell them, I go, we can work on hitting all you want, but if we're not getting the passes up to the net, there's no point in that. And so our big focus is going to continue on serving aggressively, so we're getting more free balls, or the other teams have to be out of system, and then just getting our passes up to Kylie, so we can keep running a strong offense.
Yeah, definitely. Defense wins championships.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Coach, for taking time out of your day to talk to us today, and best of luck with these next few weeks and the remainder of the fall season. Hopefully things go well for you guys, and the schedule, like I said, is consistent.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm hoping we just are able to get the matches that we've had to postpone, and just finish out our season. And I hope everyone can finish out the season, and fingers crossed that we make it to Thanksgiving. That's all. That's all I'm looking forward to, is getting to Thanksgiving.
Okay, hey everybody, it's Darren again with Adrenaline Volleyball, and we get to talk with our third coach of the week here on Coffee with the Coaches. And today we're lucky enough to be joined by Jean O'Hara Benson, and she is the longtime coach of the Chester Lady Flyers. And so, Jean, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Darren.
All right, so absolutely. The season, and we've talked with everybody about how it's been different. Just talk about the start of the season for the Flyers, what it's been like, how you're playing. We'll talk about the record and schedule a little bit more, but just talk about the season up till now.
Well, Darren, it just feels good to be having a season, and I think it almost feels weird to say that, but yet I think it's so true, because there's so much anxiety of going into it, and how do we do this, and how long are we going to be here? And I think for kids and coaches alike, maybe it was hard to feel that fully invested feel right away, because it was so unknown. And then I think we all got onto the court, and we all just took that sigh and went, this is what we do, and this is what kids do. And it just felt so normal to be back on a court. And so, we're being super cautious, not only in our building and our classrooms academically, but also on a court and when we travel. And we're going to continue to do that, because, we want to be playing volleyball in November. But it has just been great to be back on a court, back in the gym, playing the sport that I love to coach with, kids that I love to be around.
Well, and let's talk about your team a little bit, because I think when we came in and we got to see you guys a couple times this summer at camp, and then at SummerSlam, and I think if we talked before, March, April, May, that time of year, if people were talking Class B volleyball, they're like, hey, Chester probably has as veteran of a team coming back as anybody. So let's talk about your core group. And we've gotten to know quite a few of them over the year, just from our Future 50 and our camps. But talk about the core group, because you definitely have a senior presence on this squad. So talk about those guys a little bit, and just the veteran presence.
Yeah, and I guess I would go a little bit with more with veteran presence, not maybe more so than senior presence,
Right.
because I have three seniors, Kenna Brown, Ella Pry, and Jada, who are playing. Two of whom played quite a bit of time for the Lady Flyers last year,
Yep.
and then we returned Jada Kenyon and Brecken Ewell. Both of whom
Yeah.
saw quite a bit of varsity court time last year, Preston. So those four girls are kind of carrying the bulk of our experience, and thus far they're doing a nice job of doing that. And so we're the other four kids that we put on a court are a little bit not necessarily new to playing varsity ball. We've got sophomore Carly Campbell,
Yep.
who of course did do some back row playing for the Lady Flyers last year, but she's playing all the way around, and we're expecting her to take some big time varsity swings in the front row now. And so that's kind of a work in progress for us to get the mix of new players with our seasoned veterans, so to speak, and make things come together.
One thing we talked about, Gene, last year, and we really noticed was just how much fun your group had playing together last year. And we touched on that a couple times. They just enjoyed playing together and they had fun, and it seemed like they all got along. And when you talk to your athletes, they echoed that same thing, just how much fun they had. And, we talked about Kenna Larson last year as one of the seniors and just her attitude. Has that carried over this year? I mean, is it the same group because there are a lot of veterans? I mean, do they really enjoy playing together?
Well, they really enjoy the game. The game itself. They love to play volleyball, and then of course, that does manifest itself over in that they love to play this game, with each other. They played in sand volleyball leagues,
Right.
this summer.
Yep.
I know that when they could get contacts in, they were doing that, and I just think that bodes well for what they love to do, and it certainly helps unify them when they're on a court. That you bet, you said it best, there. They just really enjoy playing this game with each other, and you can't teach that necessarily to kids. That's something that they have to feel and they have to discover on their own. And I'm really thankful that this group of kids has that going for them.
Well, and I think we've seen a lot of them, but I joked with you. It seemed like every time we turned around, we saw Brecken at some volleyball event, and I know there were others. Like I said, that you guys had a team that came out and played sand volleyball in league every week, and I think they actually matched up against Haley's team one week, and she's like, I played the Flyers tonight, and but Brecken was there. A lot of them just kind of gym rats, but they played a lot of volleyball, and a couple of them were in our Future 50 event and did well, and then our Rising Stars event. You talked about Carly a little bit, but there's some new twist mixed in with some fresh faces. Talk a little bit about some of the younger people playing, and because you said there's a nice mix, so talk maybe about the rest of your lineup.
Yeah, we've added a junior, Carly Becker, and she's been going in and playing some defense for us. She does some setting for us as well, but we have mainly used her as a defensive player on the varsity, and she's doing a nice job mixing with those kids. And then we've got a couple younger gals in Emery Larson and Lily Van Hall, who have been coming in and doing some defensive support for us as well. And those girls have just meshed so well with the older girls, and I think our older veteran players have taken them under their wing, so to speak, and kind of given them the, hey, this is what we do here. Welcome aboard the bus, and let's put this thing in drive and see where it can go.
Yeah, and so is Emery then, does she actually play the libero position, or is it more of a DS?
She actually is our starting libero. That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And so, I've heard really good things, about her as well, just from a couple other coaches. And when you look, you wouldn't realize her that young. It's, like Haley was saying that with those two, she started playing volleyball in 7th grade, and you have a couple that are on your varsity. So that's a neat mix. But you talked about the veteran leadership and taking them under their wing, and, they have to do that. I don't think that's a situation you play young kids if they're not, if the upperclassmen don't help them out, right?
Oh, I agree with that, Darren. And it's been the case here where we just had a situation where a couple of these kids can just, I tell you what, their skill level is right where they are able to compete, just probably exactly where I would want them to be competing at, as a head coach. And so if they're able to do that, we want them to be out there competing at the highest level that they can compete at. And if they can, contribute in any way to the varsity being successful, then we're gonna let them go ahead and help us out.
Yeah, and absolutely, it's obviously worked. I think you guys are. Is it 12-2? Right, 12-2 coming in to this weekend. Is that?
That's correct.
Yeah, so
That's
12,
right.
12-2, and both of the setbacks were to Garrettson in conference play. We'll talk about the conference in a second, but just talk about. First of all, I do want to talk about the conference with Parker and Garrettson, and you guys seems like night to night it goes back and forth in three pretty talented teams, but also pretty even teams. Correct?
I think so. I know Garrison has had our number a couple times,
Yep.
and hats off to them. They're playing really good volleyball. They are super athletic, and they're just a very good team. And Parker is exactly the same way. Coach Roselle has those kids playing really good volleyball. And again, I'll lead in with they are just so darn athletic, and it just really helps to have athletes on the court. They can make plays when they need plays. Those kids can make plays, and so that has been a challenge for us in having to play those two teams in our conference. You bet.
And another match we had talked before we started recording, but something we're kind of looking forward to. But a team you had actually told us about and said, "Hey, watch out for these guys." Last year you said that, but Coleman Egan, and you play those guys coming up Monday or Tuesday, I believe. Talk a little bit about them and maybe a challenge that they present, because they have a one-loss team, I believe, on the season.
I believe you are correct, and they're just good. They're really good. They were really good last season, and pushed us just about as hard as they could push right at the end of the season, and they're going to come to our house on Monday, and I tell you what, they're going to be ready to play volleyball, and so we're going to need to be ready to play volleyball as well. And at this time of year, Darren, those are great matchups to have, because whether at this point, whether you win those or you lose those are the kind of matches that makes your volleyball teams better, because it's going to be great play. It's two good volleyball crowds coming into a gym. It's going to be a very exciting atmosphere. And like I said, they just have some really good players. I know the Bomberger girl is really solid, just a strong player. I believe they have Schmidt girl who's good, and just their outside hitters are good. They're going to play scrappy defense, and so, like I said, that's just good for the game. It's going to be an exciting game on Monday, and we're going to have to be very mindful of what we're doing and how we're doing it in order to compete and make that a good match.
What do you guys say? What would you say is the strength of the Lady Flyers this year? We talk about, we touch on Warner, and people talk about just how great their defense is. Talk about Faulkton and maybe their attacking. What would you say is a strength, and what's something Chester needs to continue to work on?
Well, there's a lot of elements of our game that we think that we can continue to get better at, both offensively and defensively. And we have had moments where I think things have been working just as good as they possibly could be. And then we've had times, where they're not. And so right now we are really focused on playing consistent volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
That we let mistakes go. And I know volleyball is a tough sport in that way, because every time a point gets scored, the ball has hit the ground. Whether that is by an amazing play offensively or whether it's by a mistake defensively. And I think the toughest thing to remember for players is to let that one go and play the next point. When you get caught in that funk of remembering the last play, it seems like you don't make the next play, and then that can turn into you don't make the next one and the next one, and then pretty soon you've given up 3 or 4 points, and in a good match, those are really tough to get back. And so, we're kind of trying to figure out how to roll with the ebbs and tides of the game, and figure out how to keep our momentum swings on the high side when we're scoring points, and on the low side when we're giving away points, and that's kind of continues to be our focus, is to to just become more consistent and try and keep on the high side of momentum more often than not.
One thing we touched on, and when we talked to Jason Andera earlier this week, and we broke down each class. One of the things we talked about was teams having a second weapon, a third weapon, which sometimes it takes to knock off, maybe a higher ranked team or a great defensive teams that can take away maybe one player. I know it's probably hard for coaches to say, but do you guys have a go-to, and do you think you have second and third options, or do you have girls that need to fill in those roles here in the last month of the season?
I think we're a bit of a combination of both. I know we've got players that we want to step up and be huge for us every game, and I think we are also looking for that to happen, that we don't want some of our players to have a great match one out of every 4 games.
Right.
We need to start to get those players who every single night they show up and they're our best player. And I think ultimately that's what, good teams want to have, that you can rely on that player every night.
Right.
And then, we're looking here in this next month before we get to postseason, trying to get some other players to step up and say, okay, now it's your night. If people are going to send a big old double block out to, Brecken Ewald to shut her down, where else are we going to put that ball and be effective? And now, hopefully we'll get some of our, younger girls stepping up and saying, hey, it might as well be me. Give it to me. Give that ball to me tonight, and I'm going to take care of it. And so, we're working on doing that so we can kind of, dish the ball around a little bit. Don't have to rely on just 1 or 2 heavy hitters.
Well, what does it take, Jean? I want to ask, and it goes away from this a little bit, but I have coaches, we go around the state, they talk about, especially in Class B, Northwestern, Warner, Chester, right, every year. And what does it take to build a program year after year after year that's in contention, that's going to be one of the top teams? What has been the secret recipe in Chester during your tenure?
Darren, really? You're asking me to give away my secrets?
Yeah, there's secret sauce. No, what happens that you can build a program in a smaller community?
Well, I tell you, I'm very fortunate in the building that I teach in that I teach every student from kindergarten up through 8th grade, and then 96 of our 104 kids are in my class in high school, and I know all of our kids, and I know them from the time they're little.
Right.
And we put strength in our younger programs. We have great coaches working with our kids all the way from 5th grade through 8th grade, and they're getting good, consistent play, and especially fundamentals, which at that age are so key and so vital to them growing as players. And and then we've had staff stay around and stay a part of the programs. And I think, truth be told, when you look at some of the strength of the programs in our state, it's the same coaches who have been doing those programs for quite some time. And I think that helps because kids then maybe trust the program, and the program certainly trusts the kids. And the kids, I know our kids want to be successful.
Right.
They love it, and they want to be there, and the amount of effort they put into just working their tails off, whether they are, a Jenna Reek who ends up, as a Miss Volleyball and a Gatorade Player of the Year, or, kids who end up playing in a 3rd place or a 5th place game at the state tournament. To me, there's not a difference because of their work ethic. And I think if you can foster that amongst kids, if you can foster a culture that desires great play and some discipline, then I think you're going to see that your program's going to be very successful.
That's awesome. And hey, I'll let you go on this. One final question for you, and then I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. But Chester volleyball will be successful in the postseason if
Chester volleyball would be successful in the postseason if we can continue to grow as a team, if we continue to right now put our focus in getting better every single time we take the court, so that we can work towards playing our best volleyball in the month of November. And if we do that, I think we'll have a successful postseason.
Well, you guys are definitely there. It seems like, if not every year, darn near every year. So we're going to plan on watching you late into November. And I thank you so much for your time, my friend. And best of luck. You guys stay healthy. Tell those girls to have fun playing together. And we look forward to, at least for right now, watching you online and hopefully in person soon, okay?
That sounds fantastic. Thanks so much, Darren, for all the support you give to the sport of volleyball in South Dakota. We love it. Thank you much.
Absolutely.